Hello, and welcome to the Sleepy Computer Scientist. Tonight, we're going to drift into the shadowy world of classified technologies. Technologies that exist right now. Technologies that governments around the world would prefer you never learned about. Technologies that sound like science fiction, but are already being deployed in the field, watching, tracking, and analyzing every aspect of human behavior. What I'm about to share with you tonight isn't conspiracy theory. It's documented, researched, and in many cases, accidentally revealed through leaked documents, budget disclosures, and the occasional presidential tweet. These are the tools of modern surveillance and control. Technologies so advanced, so intrusive, that their very existence challenges our assumptions about privacy, autonomy, and what it means to be human in the 21st century. So settle in, let your mind relax, and prepare to discover what's really happening in the invisible infrastructure of power that surrounds us all. Because once you know what's possible, once you understand what's already here, you can never look at the world quite the same way again. Let me start with something that happened in August 2019. Something that changed everything we thought we knew about government surveillance capabilities. President Donald Trump posted a photograph on Twitter, just a simple tweet. But that single image sent shockwaves through the intelligence community and confirmed what many had long suspected about the true capabilities of American spy satellites. The photograph showed an Iranian rocket launch facility. The detail was extraordinary. You could see individual objects smaller than a coin. The resolution was so sharp that experts analyzing the image calculated it at approximately 10 centimeters per pixel, from space, from hundreds of miles above the Earth's surface. A satellite had captured an image clear enough to read license plates, to identify faces, to see details that should have been impossible. Intelligence analysts were horrified, not because the image existed, but because it revealed capabilities that were supposed to remain classified for decades. Within hours, amateur satellite trackers had identified the likely source, USA 224, one of America's KH-11 reconnaissance satellites. These satellites are as large as a school bus, with mirrors the same size as the Hubble Space Telescope. But instead of pointing at distant galaxies, they point down, at us, at everything we do. And that's just one technology, one capability that was accidentally revealed. Tonight, we're going to explore 10 technologies that governments possess right now. Technologies that operate in the shadows. Technologies that are reshaping what surveillance means, what privacy means, what freedom means. These aren't future possibilities. They're not theoretical. They're operational, deployed, active, and most people have no idea they exist. By the end of tonight's journey, you'll understand why governments work so hard to keep these capabilities secret. You'll understand the immense power they represent, and you'll understand why, once these technologies become widespread knowledge, the relationship between citizens and states can never quite return to what it was before. So let's begin our descent into the classified world, a world where cameras can identify you from over a mile away in complete darkness, where drones can hunt and kill without any human making the final decision, where quantum computers are being built specifically to crack every encrypted message you've ever sent, where satellites can zoom in from orbit and capture images smaller than your fingertip. This is the world that exists right now, hidden behind classification stamps and black budgets. This is the infrastructure of total surveillance. And tonight, on the Sleepy Computer Scientist, we're going to explore every dark corner of it together. Not with fear, but with clear-eyed understanding. Because knowledge, Even uncomfortable knowledge is always better than ignorance. Let the journey begin. Chapter 1. Long Range. Facial recognition. The human face has always been the ultimate identifier. For thousands of years, recognizing a face required proximity. You had to be close enough to see features clearly, close enough for light to carry the details of bone structure, eye spacing, the subtle geometry that makes each face unique. That fundamental limitation shaped how communities worked, how strangers were identified, how anonymity functioned in public spaces. That limitation no longer exists. In September 2019, the United States military began development on a technology that would change facial recognition forever. 2 contracts were issued. $2.8 million to Tian Systems, a California company specializing in infrared sensors. $1.5 million to Polaris Sensor Technologies, a government contractor with expertise in electro-optic imaging. The goal was clear and deeply unsettling. Develop a facial recognition system that could identify individuals from up to 500 meters away, in complete darkness, through automotive glass, through light fog, through conditions that would make traditional cameras useless. The technology works by reading thermal signatures. Every human face emits a pattern of heat. Blood flow creates subtle temperature variations across the skin. These variations are as unique as a fingerprint. And unlike visible light, which can be blocked by darkness or obscured by weather, infrared radiation passes through these obstacles with relative ease. The system being developed doesn't just capture an image, it analyzes the heat map of a face, the thermal pattern created by blood vessels near the surface, the way heat radiates from different facial structures. According to the Defense Forensics and Biometrics Agency, which oversees the program, the device needs to be small enough for an individual soldier to carry. It must operate continuously, scanning environments and comparing faces against watch lists in real time. The implications are staggering. A soldier could aim this device at a crowd 500 meters away in the middle of the night, and within seconds the system would identify every person on a government watch list. No visible light required, no cooperation from the targets needed, just passive thermal scanning and AI-driven pattern matching. But that's not the most concerning part. The most concerning part is what this technology enables when combined with other systems. When you can identify faces at 500 meters in darkness, you're not just improving battlefield identification, you're creating a capability that erases anonymity at scale. Imagine this technology deployed at border crossings, at protests, at public gatherings, mounted on drones, integrated into security checkpoints. The ability to identify anyone, anywhere, regardless of lighting conditions or their attempts to obscure their face with darkness. The Army Research Lab has been studying this problem since at least 2018, when they published early research on thermal facial recognition. The goal was to enable what they call non-contact identification, a way to verify identity without physical interaction, without consent, without the target even knowing they're being scanned. In their research, they demonstrated that thermal imaging could be converted into visible spectrum representations. A thermal image of a face could be algorithmically transformed to match the same face in a visible light database. This is crucial because most facial recognition databases are built from regular photographs, driver's licenses, passport photos, security cameras, all visible light images. If thermal signatures can be matched against these existing databases, then every government in the world already has the gallery they need. They don't need new thermal photos of everyone. They just need the algorithm that translates one to the other. And according to the Army Research Lab's publications, they've achieved exactly that. The technology relies on deep neural networks trained on paired data sets. Thousands of faces captured in both thermal and visible light under varying conditions. The AI learns to map the relationship between a face's thermal signature and its visible appearance. Once trained, it can take a thermal image of a stranger and predict what they would look like in a regular photograph. That prediction is then compared against databases of visible light images using standard facial recognition software. In testing, the system achieved verification accuracy that surprised even the researchers. In some configurations, thermal to visible matching performed better than generative adversarial networks, which were previously considered the gold standard for cross-spectrum identification. The reason appears to be that the system prioritizes preserving identifying characteristics over creating photorealistic images. It doesn't matter if the synthesized image looks perfect to a human. What matters is that the AI can extract the same facial features from both the thermal input and the visible database entry. This represents a fundamental shift in surveillance capability. Traditional facial recognition requires good lighting, clear sight lines, and faces oriented toward cameras. Thermal facial recognition works in complete darkness, through light obscuration, and at ranges where visible details would be impossible to capture. It turns night into a surveillance space as transparent as day. It makes hiding in shadows impossible. It means that the cover of darkness, which has protected human movement since the beginning of civilization, no longer functions against state surveillance. The military applications are obvious: identifying targets on battlefields, verifying identities at checkpoints, tracking high-value individuals in urban environments where they might use darkness to evade optical surveillance. But the domestic implications are equally profound. This technology doesn't just work for the military. The same principles apply to law enforcement, border security, and any agency with access to thermal cameras and sufficient computing power. Consider what becomes possible. Police drones equipped with thermal cameras and facial recognition could patrol neighborhoods at night, automatically flagging individuals on watch lists. Thermal scanners at protest sites could identify participants, even if they're wearing masks or it's after dark. Border surveillance systems could track individuals crossing in darkness with the same precision as daytime crossings. Every face becomes a data point. Every thermal signature becomes a searchable identity, and the technology is accelerating. The contracts issued in 2019 had a completion date of 2021. Based on what we know from similar military AI programs, this timeline suggests that working prototypes likely exist now. Field testing has probably been conducted. The system may already be deployed in classified operations. The public contracts we know about are almost certainly just the visible edge of a much larger research program. What we don't know is equally important. We don't know what resolution the current systems achieve. We don't know the maximum effective range under ideal conditions. We don't know how well the system works on faces that are partially obscured. We don't know whether it can identify individuals through vehicle windows at highway speeds. We don't know if it can operate from aerial platforms or if it's limited to ground-based use. These details remain classified, but we can make educated inferences based on the physics involved and the stated requirements. Thermal cameras have made dramatic advances in recent years. Commercial thermal sensors now achieve resolutions comparable to visible light cameras. Military-grade sensors are significantly better. The primary limitation is atmospheric absorption of infrared wavelengths, which varies depending on humidity, temperature, and particulate matter in the air. Under ideal conditions, clear dry air, thermal imaging can maintain detail at remarkable distances, the 500-meter range specified in the contract isn't arbitrary. It likely represents a practical limit where atmospheric effects begin to degrade thermal signatures enough to impact identification accuracy. But this means that at shorter ranges, say 100 to 200 meters, the system probably works with very high reliability. And in controlled environments like checkpoints or border crossings, where ranges can be minimized and atmospheric conditions monitored, accuracy rates could approach perfect. There's another consideration that makes this technology particularly powerful: gait analysis. The way a person walks is surprisingly unique. It's influenced by skeletal structure, muscle distribution, old injuries, habitual patterns of movement. AI systems have gotten remarkably good at identifying individuals just from how they walk. When you combine thermal facial recognition with gait analysis, you create a multimodal identification system that's incredibly robust. Even if the thermal facial match has some ambiguity, the gait signature can provide confirmation. Two independent biometric markers pointing to the same identity. The system reportedly uses high-resolution AI image stitching to enhance captured data. This means that even if a single frame doesn't have enough detail for confident identification, the system can combine multiple frames taken over time, stitching them together to create a higher resolution composite. As a person moves through the surveillance area, the system continuously captures thermal data, building a more complete picture with each frame. This technique, borrowed from astronomical imaging, can extract identifying details from what initially appears to be insufficient data. Military documents suggest the device needs to work through automotive windshield glass. This requirement reveals an important deployment scenario: checkpoints. The system needs to identify vehicle occupants as they approach, before they've stopped, before they've rolled down windows. Glass presents challenges for thermal imaging because it can reflect and distort infrared radiation. But windshield glass, particularly modern automotive glass, has thermal properties that can be compensated for. The AI can be trained to recognize and correct for the distortion patterns specific to windshield glass, essentially seeing through it to the thermal signatures beyond. The stated capability to work through light weather conditions, like fog, is particularly significant. Fog scatters visible light dramatically, making optical cameras nearly useless. But fog is made of water droplets, and water is relatively transparent to certain infrared wavelengths. By selecting the right infrared frequency band, thermal cameras can see through fog that would completely blind a visible light system. This means the technology works better than regular surveillance during the exact conditions when people expect privacy and reduced surveillance capability. What makes this technology truly concerning isn't just its capabilities in isolation, it's how it fits into a larger surveillance ecosystem. Facial recognition is most powerful when integrated with other tracking systems. Location data from cell phones, vehicle license plate readers, surveillance cameras creating movement histories, social network analysis mapping relationships, transaction records showing behavior patterns. When you can identify faces at 500 meters in darkness, you're adding a crucial missing piece to total surveillance infrastructure. Consider a scenario. An individual attends a political rally at night. They're careful, no phone, mask covering their face in visible light. They arrive and leave in a friend's car. They think they're anonymous. But thermal facial recognition systems are operating from rooftops, from drones, from vehicles parked blocks away. The system identifies them the moment they step out of the car, tracks their movements through the crowd, notes who they speak with, creates a record of their attendance and associations, all without their knowledge, all without any visible surveillance apparatus. This is the world that long-range thermal facial recognition enables, a world where darkness no longer provides cover, where distance no longer provides anonymity, where the simple act of walking down a street becomes a recorded, analysed, and archived event. The technology doesn't just identify faces, it strips away the last remaining barriers to total surveillance, and it does so using capabilities that most people don't even know are possible. Chapter 2: Autonomous Military Drones. There's a line that humans have traditionally drawn in warfare, a line that says when lethal force is deployed, a human must be in the loop, a human must assess the situation, a human must verify the target, a human must make the final decision to fire. That line is being erased, quietly, systematically, and in some cases, it may already be gone. In March 2020, something unprecedented happened in Libya. A Turkish-made Kargu-2 drone was deployed in combat. The Kargu-2 is classified as a loitering munition system. It circles an area, waiting for targets to appear. But unlike previous drones, the Kargu-2 doesn't need a human operator to identify and engage targets. It can do that autonomously. According to a United Nations report published in 2021, the Kargu-2 hunted down retreating soldiers. It identified them as targets, and it engaged them, all without direct human control. The report's language is carefully neutral, as UN documents tend to be. It describes how logistics convoys and retreating forces were subsequently hunted down and remotely engaged by unmanned combat aerial vehicles or the lethal autonomous weapon systems such as the STM Kargu-2. The phrase remotely engaged is doing a lot of work there, because if the system is truly autonomous, remotely means something very different than it does with traditional drones. It doesn't mean a human pilot pressing a trigger from thousands of miles away. It means the drone itself deciding to attack. This represents a fundamental threshold being crossed. For the first time in history, machines made the decision to use lethal force against humans, not because a human operator commanded them to, not because they were responding to a direct threat, but because an algorithm determined that certain humans matched the target parameters it had been programmed to identify. The humans who died, if any did, were killed by a decision made by software, by pattern recognition systems, by weight calculations and probability assessments executed in silicon. The technology enabling this capability is advancing at a breathtaking pace. At the forefront is something called Shield AI's HiveMind system. It's an artificial intelligence platform that enables drones to perform complex tasks with minimal human input. Threat detection, target identification, mission adaptation, all handled autonomously. According to Shield AI's Director of Product Management, the system can pass the data directly back to where it matters rather than passing it through 3 intermediaries. This reduction in decision-making latency is presented as an efficiency improvement, but it's also a reduction in human oversight. Fewer intermediaries means fewer opportunities for human judgment to intervene. The system uses real-time object detection algorithms. These are deep neural networks trained on millions of images to recognize military vehicles, weapons, infrastructure, and human targets. The training data comes from previous conflicts, from simulation environments, from intelligence databases of known equipment. The AI learns to identify a tank, a missile launcher, an armed soldier, and critically, it learns to distinguish these from civilians, from allied forces, from non-combatants. or at least it's supposed to learn that distinction. How well it actually does so under battlefield conditions remains largely classified. But we're seeing glimpses of the capability in Ukraine, where AI-enabled drones are being used extensively by both sides. Ukrainian forces are deploying swarms of drones, coordinated by AI systems like swarmers' sticks. These swarms can include both reconnaissance and strike drones working together with minimal human coordination. One drone identifies a target, others move to engage. The system distributes tasks across the swarm instantly, adapting to threats and opportunities faster than any human coordination could manage. The CEO of Swarmer explained it bluntly. Managing 10 to 20 drones simultaneously is beyond human capability without automation. As the scale increases, human control becomes not just difficult but impossible, and the scale is increasing rapidly. Reports from the conflict describe swarms of up to 20 drones being used in single attacks. Some drones head for the primary target, others work to disable or distract air defenses. Still others provide reconnaissance data, all coordinated by AI, with human operators providing only high-level tasking and approval. This creates what military strategists call a kill chain compression. The time between detecting a target and engaging it shrinks dramatically. Traditional warfare involves observation, decision-making, command authorization, weapon deployment. Each step takes time. Each step involves human judgment and potential delay. Autonomous systems compress this into seconds. Observation becomes engagement almost instantly. The military advantage is obvious. The ethical questions are profound. Because here's what's actually happening. These systems use predictive movement algorithms. They don't just track where a target is, they predict where it's going. Based on current velocity, terrain, observed behavior patterns, the AI calculates probable future positions. This allows the drone to intercept targets that are moving, to plan approach angles that minimize detection, to time attacks for maximum effect. It's not just automation, it's anticipation. The machine is thinking ahead, modeling the behavior of human targets, making predictions about their actions. The underlying technology relies on sensor fusion. Multiple data streams, visual cameras, infrared sensors, radar returns, all processed simultaneously to build a comprehensive picture of the battle space. Machine learning algorithms extract features from this data: vehicle types, heat signatures, movement patterns, radio emissions. The AI assembles these features into target classifications. This is probably a tank. That's probably an ammunition truck. Those are probably soldiers. Each classification comes with a confidence score, a probability that the identification is correct. And this is where the danger becomes apparent, because what happens when the confidence score is 70%, 80%? The military has to set thresholds. Below this confidence level, the system requests human confirmation. Above it, the system can engage autonomously. But those thresholds are policy decisions, not technical limitations. They can be adjusted. In the heat of combat, when speed matters, when communication is unreliable, there's enormous pressure to lower the threshold, to let the AI act on less certain identifications, to accept higher rates of error in exchange for faster response. We saw a preview of this in Israel's operations in Gaza. Reports emerged of AI systems being used for target selection. The system, reportedly called Gospel, analyzes intelligence data to identify targets. It processes vast amounts of information: movement patterns, communications, known affiliations, building layouts. It generates target recommendations faster than human analysts ever could. Human operators still make the final decision to strike, but they're making that decision based on AI recommendations with limited time to verify and with strong institutional pressure to trust the system. The problem, as documented by human rights organizations, is that these systems can't reliably distinguish combatants from civilians in complex urban environments. The features that identify a military target are often ambiguous. Armed individuals might be soldiers or security guards. Buildings might house weapons or families. Vehicles might carry ammunition or refugees. The AI makes its best guess based on probability models. But probability isn't certainty, and in warfare, uncertainty kills innocent people. This brings us to the Pentagon's Replicator Initiative, announced in September 2023. The goal is to field thousands of autonomous weapon systems within 18 to 24 months. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. The Deputy Defense Secretary called it a game-changing shift in national security, and she's right. Because when you have thousands of autonomous drones, each capable of identifying and engaging targets without human oversight, you've created something qualitatively different from previous weapon systems. You've created a distributed, resilient, adaptive weapons network that thinks for itself. One that can coordinate across platforms, share targeting data, divide tasks efficiently. A swarm that behaves like a single intelligence with thousands of eyes and hundreds of weapons. The military advantage is compelling. The risk to human control over violence is equally compelling. Because once you deploy thousands of autonomous weapons, you can't maintain meaningful human oversight of each individual engagement. It's not physically possible. You've delegated the micro-decisions to machines. You've accepted that AI will kill people without waiting for human approval in each instance. The United States military has been somewhat more cautious than other nations, at least publicly. Deputy Defense Secretary Robert Work stated in 2016 that the Defense Department would not delegate lethal authority to a machine to make a decision. But that statement contains careful qualifications. It says make a decision, not carry out a decision. The distinction matters. A human could make the decision that all vehicles of a certain type in a certain area are targets. The machine then identifies and engages those targets without further human input. Did the machine make the decision, or did it just execute human orders with autonomous targeting? This is the language game being played around lethal autonomous weapons. Policymakers want the capability, they want the speed and scale that autonomy provides, but they also want to maintain the fiction of human control. So they construct systems where humans make strategic decisions and AI makes tactical ones, where humans define the targeting parameters and AI finds the targets, where humans approve missions and AI conducts them. The human remains in the loop at one level while being completely absent at another. China is less concerned with these linguistic gymnastics. Their development of autonomous systems is aggressive and expanding. The Feiyi drone, for instance, can operate both in the air and underwater. It launches from a submarine, travels beneath the surface to avoid detection, then surfaces and takes flight for surveillance or strike missions. The entire sequence can be conducted autonomously. The submarine deploys it. The drone navigates to its target area, identifies targets of interest, and either reports back or engages depending on its programming. No surface ship required, no exposed command and control, just silent autonomous operation. The military advantage of autonomous drones is undeniable. They're cheap compared to manned aircraft. They can be deployed in numbers that overwhelm traditional air defense. They can take risks no pilot would survive. They can operate in contested environments where communication with human operators might be jammed or intercepted. They make military operations possible that would be impractical with crude systems. This is why every major military power is investing heavily in the technology. It's not speculative, it's the clear direction of warfare. But this trajectory raises questions that have no good answers. What happens when two autonomous swarms encounter each other? When AI-controlled drones are fighting AI-controlled drones, with human operators monitoring but not directing? Do the humans even understand what the machines are doing? Can they intervene if things go wrong? Or does warfare become something that happens between machines, with humans reduced to spectators of violence they no longer directly control? And what happens when these systems malfunction? When a software bug causes a drone to misidentify targets? When a sensor failure makes civilians look like combatants? When a communication error causes friendly forces to be engaged? Traditional weapons fail in ways we understand. A missile might miss. A bomb might hit the wrong building. But the cause is usually identifiable. A navigation error, a targeting mistake, a mechanical failure. With autonomous systems, failure modes can be opaque. The AI made a decision based on training data, statistical correlations, and probability calculations that no human can fully trace or reconstruct after the fact. This is what computer scientists call the black box problem. Modern deep neural networks are incredibly effective at pattern recognition, but they're also fundamentally opaque. We can see what goes in, we can see what comes out, but the transformation happening inside the network, across millions of parameters adjusted through training, is not something we can easily explain. The AI knows that a certain pattern means target, but it can't tell us why. It just learned through exposure to training data that this combination of features correlates with targets. When an autonomous drone engages a target, the decision was made by a black box, a system that learned correlations but can't explain its reasoning. This creates an accountability void. Who is responsible when the drone makes a mistake? The programmer who wrote the training algorithm, the military officer who approved the training data, the commanding officer who deployed the system, the political leader who authorized the mission? Or is it simply an inevitable consequence of using statistical systems that can never achieve perfect accuracy? The uncomfortable truth is that these questions don't have clear answers, and worse, they may not have good answers. Autonomous weapons are being deployed because they provide military advantages. The ethical and legal frameworks lag behind the technology. International law is built around human decision-makers. The laws of war assume that people aim weapons, people pull triggers, people make decisions about proportionality and necessity. When machines make those decisions, the entire structure of accountability becomes uncertain. Several international organizations have called for bans or restrictions on lethal autonomous weapons. The campaign to stop killer robots has documented that 62% of people globally oppose their use. But opposition doesn't slow development, it just makes it more covert. If everyone knows that fully autonomous weapons are unpopular, then development moves into classified programs. Testing happens in secret. Deployment is never officially acknowledged. The weapons exist and operate, but in a space where public accountability can't reach. And here's what we're not talking about enough. The technology doesn't stop at military applications. Every capability developed for autonomous military drones can be adapted for domestic use. Facial recognition for targeting becomes facial recognition for identification. Predictive movement algorithms for intercepting enemies become predictive movement algorithms for tracking suspects. Swarm coordination for battlefield dominance becomes swarm coordination for controlling protests. The distinction between military and police use of autonomous systems is a policy choice, not a technical limitation. We're already seeing this convergence. Police departments are acquiring drones, some with facial recognition, some with crowd monitoring capabilities, some with chemical dispersal systems. The step from monitored drones to autonomous drones isn't large. It's mostly a software update, a change in how much human oversight is required before the system acts. And the pressure to reduce human oversight comes from the same place in policing as it does in military operations: speed, scale, efficiency, the ability to monitor more people with fewer officers, to respond to incidents faster, to identify suspects in real time. The line between military autonomous weapons and domestic autonomous surveillance is thinner than most people realize. They share the same underlying technologies: object recognition, predictive algorithms, sensor fusion, multi-agent coordination. The difference is just in how the system is programmed to respond when it identifies a target of interest. In military contexts, it might engage with lethal force. In domestic contexts, it might alert human officers, track the target, or flag them for investigation. But the surveillance capability, the autonomous identification and tracking, that's the same either way. This is why the development of military autonomous drones matters even if you never encounter one. Because the technology being developed for battlefields creates capabilities that inevitably spread to civilian contexts. The surveillance state and the military-industrial complex aren't separate systems. They're parts of the same technological ecosystem. Innovations flow between them. Personnel move between them. Budgets support both. When militaries develop the ability to identify and track individuals autonomously, that capability becomes available to every security agency with access to similar computing resources. Chapter 3: Quantum Decryption Machines. Every secret you've ever entrusted to encryption might already be compromised. Not today, maybe not this year, but soon. And the most concerning part is that the harvesting has already begun. Nation-states are recording encrypted communications right now, storing them in vast data centers, waiting for the moment when quantum computers become powerful enough to crack the codes that currently protect those messages. This is called the Harvest Now, Decrypt Later strategy, and it's not speculative. According to cybersecurity experts and intelligence assessments, adversary nations are actively collecting encrypted data with the explicit intention of decrypting it in the future. Every encrypted email, every secure financial transaction, every protected medical record, every classified government communication, all being stored, all waiting for quantum computers to mature enough to unlock them. The threat is real enough that President Biden issued National Security Memorandum 10 in 2022, acknowledging the risk that quantum computers may eventually pose to the security of US government communications. The memorandum ordered the entire US government to upgrade as much of its communication systems as feasible by 2035. The timeline alone is telling: 2035. More than a decade to transition. Because everyone with knowledge of the classified capabilities and research trajectories understands that this isn't a distant future threat, it's an approaching threshold. Here's how quantum computing breaks encryption. Most modern cryptography, the systems protecting everything from your banking to national security secrets, relies on mathematical problems that are easy to solve in one direction, but incredibly difficult to reverse. Factoring large numbers, for instance. If I give you two large prime numbers and ask you to multiply them, that's trivial. Any computer can do it instantly. But if I give you the product and ask you to find the original prime factors, That becomes exponentially harder as the numbers get larger. For sufficiently large numbers, classical computers would need billions of years to factor them. That's the foundation of RSA encryption, one of the most widely used cryptographic systems in the world. Your web browser uses it, your bank uses it, governments use it. The security isn't based on the math being unsolvable, it's based on the time required to solve it being so long that the attempt is pointless. By the time an attacker factors the key, the information protected by that key is no longer valuable. Quantum computers change everything about this calculation. In 1994, mathematician Peter Shor developed an algorithm showing how a sufficiently powerful quantum computer could factor large numbers exponentially faster than classical computers. Not marginally faster, not twice as fast, exponentially faster. Problems that would take classical computers billions of years could be solved by quantum computers in hours, maybe minutes. The exact timeline depends on the problem size and the quantum computer's capability. But the fundamental relationship is clear. Quantum computers can break RSA encryption, and probably ECC, elliptic curved cryptography, which is even more widely used. The implications are staggering. If quantum computers can break these systems, then virtually all encrypted communications become vulnerable. Credit card numbers, medical records, corporate secrets, diplomatic cables, military communications, classified intelligence. Everything protected by RSA or ECC cryptography could potentially be decrypted by an adversary with a sufficiently powerful quantum computer. This hypothetical computer is called a CRQC, a cryptographically relevant quantum computer. According to the Global Risk Institute's Quantum Threat Timeline report, published in January 2025, there's a 17 to 31% chance that someone will develop a CRQC capable of cracking RSA encryption in less than 24 hours within a decade. Within 15 years, that probability rises to 33 to 54%. These aren't certainties. Quantum computing faces enormous technical challenges. Qubits, the quantum equivalent of classical bits, are incredibly fragile. The slightest environmental disturbance can corrupt them. Scaling from the dozens of qubits in current quantum computers to the thousands or millions needed for breaking strong encryption requires overcoming problems that may take decades. Or they might be solved next year. No one knows for certain. But the intelligence community is operating on the assumption that CRQCs will eventually exist. And they're preparing for that eventuality now. The National Security Agency released detailed guidance on quantum-resistant cryptography. They're developing new encryption standards that even quantum computers shouldn't be able to break. The National Institute of Standards and Technology finalized 3 post-quantum cryptography algorithms in 2024. These systems use different mathematical problems that we believe remain hard even for quantum computers. Problems involving lattices, hash functions, multivariate polynomials. Problems where quantum speedup doesn't provide the same dramatic advantage that Shor's algorithm provides for factorization. But here's the challenge. Transitioning to post-quantum cryptography takes time, decades, potentially. Every system that uses encryption needs to be updated. Every protocol needs to be modified. Every device needs new software. The NSA memorandum calls for transitioning national security systems by 2035, acknowledging that even with dedicated effort, full migration might take that long, and civilian infrastructure will lag behind military and intelligence systems. This creates a vulnerability window, a period where quantum computers exist but not all systems have been upgraded to quantum-resistant cryptography. During that window, which could last years or decades, encrypted communications will be readable to anyone with access to a CRQC. And because of harvest now, decrypt later, the vulnerability window actually extends backward in time. Communications encrypted today with vulnerable algorithms could be decrypted years from now, even after the sender and receiver have switched to quantum-resistant systems. The data is already collected. The encryption is already breakable by future computers. You just have to wait for the computer to be built. Intelligence agencies understand this timeline acutely. Classified information has what the NSA calls intelligence value that can extend 30 years or more. A communication that contains classified information today might still be valuable to decrypt in 2040, which means any classified communication happening now needs to be protected against quantum attacks that won't be possible for another decade or two. This is why the national security establishment is moving so aggressively on post-quantum cryptography, even though CRQCs don't yet exist. They're protecting against a threat that's still being built. The concerning possibility that keeps security researchers awake is that someone might develop a CRQC in secret. That a nation-state or well-funded organization might achieve quantum advantage in cryptanalysis without announcing it. The commercial incentive to announce would normally be enormous. Quantum computers have applications in drug design, materials science, optimization, artificial intelligence. A breakthrough would be worth announcing, but the intelligence value of secret quantum decryption would also be enormous. The ability to read your adversary's encrypted communications without them knowing you can is one of the most valuable intelligence capabilities imaginable. Most experts believe secret development is unlikely. Quantum computers require enormous resources, sophisticated equipment, large teams of specialists, significant electrical power. Current estimates suggest a CRQC might draw around 125 megawatts of power, a significant fraction of a typical power plant's output. Hiding that scale of operation would be difficult. The supply chains for quantum computing components are relatively limited. Unusual purchases might be detected. The talent pool of quantum computing experts is small and relatively well known. If a major research center suddenly went dark, that would be noticed. But unlikely isn't impossible. A nation-state with sufficient resources and motivation could potentially conceal quantum computing research. They could develop cover stories for power consumption. They could restrict information flow from research teams. They could use front companies for component procurement. Whether this is happening is unknowable from outside the classified world, but the possibility motivates defensive measures. If there's even a small chance that CRQCs exist or will soon exist, then transitioning to quantum-resistant cryptography becomes urgent. There's another dimension to this threat that's less discussed but equally important. Quantum computers won't just break encryption. They'll enable new forms of cryptanalysis against systems we thought were secure. Symmetric encryption systems like AES, which are used for everything from protecting files to securing communications, are somewhat resistant to quantum attacks. Grover's algorithm, another quantum algorithm, can search symmetric key spaces faster than classical computers, but only quadratically faster. This means doubling the key length restores security. S2546, which is already widely deployed, should remain secure against quantum attacks. But cryptography isn't just about encryption algorithms. It's about entire systems, key exchange protocols, authentication mechanisms, digital signatures, random number generation. These systems often depend on public key cryptography that quantum computers can break. Even if your symmetric encryption remains strong, if the protocol used to exchange keys is vulnerable to quantum attack, the system can be compromised. This means transitioning to quantum-resistant systems isn't just about swapping one algorithm for another. It's about redesigning entire cryptographic infrastructures. The Federal Reserve published a report in 2025 about quantum threats to blockchain systems. Blockchains, including Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, use public key cryptography for securing transactions. Quantum computers could potentially break these systems, allowing attackers to forge transactions or steal funds. More concerningly, because blockchain is an immutable record, all historical transactions remain vulnerable. Even if the blockchain transitions to quantum-resistant cryptography in the future, past transactions, recorded with vulnerable algorithms, could be attacked retroactively. Every Bitcoin transaction ever made is permanently recorded. If quantum computers can break the cryptography, protecting those transactions, then the entire history of Bitcoin becomes transparent to anyone with a CRQC. The report invokes Moscow's theorem, a simple calculation. The time it takes to migrate to quantum-resistant cryptography, plus the time sensitive data must remain secret, must be less than the time until quantum computers can break current cryptography. If the sum of migration time plus secrecy requirement exceeds the time until quantum computers arrive, then you've already failed. Your data will be compromised. For many systems, this calculation suggests we're running out of time. Migration is slow, secrecy requirements are long, and quantum computing is advancing faster than many predicted. Governments are already taking defensive measures. The Committee on National Security Systems Policy 15 specifies commercial cryptographic algorithms for protecting national security systems. They're transitioning to the CNSA suite, an interim strategy while quantum-resistant standards are finalized and deployed. Intelligence agencies are compartmentalizing sensitive data, using pre-shared keys where possible, implementing defense-by-deception strategies like honeypots, fake classified networks that contain useless encrypted data, forcing adversaries to waste quantum computing resources, decrypting information that has no intelligence value. But these are temporary measures. Ultimately, the only defense against quantum computers breaking encryption is cryptography that quantum computers can't break, and that cryptography needs to be deployed everywhere encryption is currently used, which is essentially everywhere in modern digital infrastructure. The scale of the transition is unprecedented. It's not an update. It's a fundamental re-architecture of global digital security. And during the transition, we'll be vulnerable. There's no avoiding that window of exposure. The question is just how long it lasts and how many systems get compromised before the transition completes. Intelligence agencies are prioritizing the most sensitive systems: national security communications, nuclear command and control, critical infrastructure, but civilian systems, commercial encryption, personal communications, those will transition more slowly, if at all. Many systems will simply never be updated. Legacy devices, embedded systems, things that can't be patched, they'll remain vulnerable indefinitely. This creates a tiered security environment. The most sensitive communications will be protected. Government secrets will migrate to quantum-resistant systems, but everything else, the communications of ordinary citizens, of businesses, of organizations without specialized security resources, those remain exposed to quantum attacks potentially for decades. The digital divide becomes a security divide. Those with resources to implement post-quantum cryptography will have secure communications. Everyone else will be vulnerable, and we're already living in the harvest now phase. Every encrypted message you send today could potentially be decrypted by quantum computers in the future. This sounds abstract until you think about what's actually in those messages. Medical records, financial transactions, personal correspondence, confidential business communications. Anything you've ever sent over an encrypted channel is potentially readable to any government or organization that recorded it, and eventually acquires access to a CRQC. The surveillance implications are profound. Law enforcement, intelligence agencies, anyone with access to stored encrypted communications and future quantum computers will be able to retroactively decrypt entire histories. They can't do it now. The encryption is still secure against classical computers, but the data is being preserved, waiting. And when quantum computers with sufficient power become available, all that stored data becomes an intelligence goldmine. Conversations you had in 2025 might be decrypted and analysed in 2040. People you communicated with, topics you discussed, patterns of contact, all reconstructed from communications you thought were secure. This isn't hypothetical future surveillance, it's surveillance infrastructure being built today through data collection. With the decryption capability coming later, the surveillance has already happened, we just can't access the content yet. But that's a temporary technical limitation, not a permanent protection, and there's no way to unrecord the data. Once communications are intercepted and stored, they remain vulnerable forever. Or until storage systems fail, or until someone decides to delete them. Neither seems likely for intelligence databases. The only real defense is to avoid generating sensitive communications that you want to remain secret for decades, or to use post-quantum cryptography now, before quantum computers exist. But that's impractical for most users. Post-quantum algorithms are newer, less tested, and not yet widely supported. Most people don't even know they exist, and even if they did, the software they use, messaging apps, email clients, web browsers, doesn't yet implement them as default options. Upgrading requires specialized knowledge and effort that most users won't invest, so we're left with a troubling reality. Much of what we communicate today under encryption is only temporarily secure. It's secure until quantum computers advance sufficiently. Then it becomes retroactively readable. We're living in a twilight period where our communications are protected by mathematics that will eventually be obsolete, collected by systems that will eventually be able to crack them, creating permanent records of what we believed were ephemeral, private exchanges. Chapter 4: Satellite Cameras with Extreme Zoom. Look up at the sky right now. Depending on when you're listening to this, there are probably multiple satellites with cameras pointed at Earth passing overhead. Military reconnaissance satellites, classified imaging platforms, assets operated by the National Reconnaissance Office. And those cameras can see things that would have seemed impossible just a few decades ago. Resolution measured in centimeters, images detailed enough to identify individuals, to read vehicle identification plates, to count the rivets on a fighter jet's wing. We know this not from official disclosures but from accidents, from the occasional leak, and most dramatically from that presidential tweet in August 2019. When President Trump posted a satellite photograph of an Iranian rocket facility, he inadvertently confirmed capabilities that were supposed to remain classified for decades. The image showed resolution estimated at 10 centimeters per pixel from orbit, from hundreds of kilometers above Earth's surface. Analysis of that photograph, conducted by satellite trackers and imaging experts, traced it to USA 224, one of the classified KH-11 series of reconnaissance satellites. These satellites are massive, approximately 65 feet long, 10 feet wide, weighing around 40,000 pounds. They're essentially space telescopes pointed downward instead of toward the stars. The primary mirror is 2.4 meters in diameter, the same size as the Hubble Space Telescope's mirror, but instead of capturing light from distant galaxies, it captures light reflected from Earth's surface. The physics are straightforward. A perfect 2.4 meter mirror observing invisible light has a diffraction-limited resolution of about 0.05 arc-seconds. From an orbital altitude of 250 kilometers, this corresponds to a ground sample distance of 6 centimeters. That's the theoretical limit. Actual performance is worse due to atmospheric turbulence, image motion from satellite movement, and other factors. But even degraded by atmospheric effects, resolution in the range of 10 to 15 centimeters appears achievable, and those are figures we can calculate from public physics. The actual classified performance might be better. More recent KH-11 satellites reportedly have 3-meter mirrors, larger than the original design, larger than Hubble. This would improve theoretical resolution proportionally. With a 3-meter mirror, diffraction-limited resolution drops to around 4 centimeters. Whether operational systems actually achieve this is classified, but the trend is clear. Each generation improves. Each new satellite can see finer details from the same altitude, or maintain the same resolution from higher, safer orbits. But raw resolution is just one dimension of satellite imaging capability. There are techniques for surpassing diffraction limits. Adaptive optics borrowed from ground-based astronomy can compensate for atmospheric distortion in real time. Synthetic aperture techniques can combine multiple images to create effective resolution higher than any single image achieves. Multispectral imaging captures data across different wavelengths: ultraviolet, visible, infrared, near-infrared, allowing analysts to extract information that isn't visible in any single frequency band. These satellites don't just take still images, they can capture video sequences, watch vehicles moving, track individuals walking, monitor activities over extended periods. The images can be georeferenced precisely, allowing analysts to measure distances, determine heights, create three-dimensional models of terrain and structures. Multiple satellites can image the same area from different angles, creating stereoscopic views that reveal elevation and depth information invisible in single images. And these satellites work in all weather conditions, or at least in more conditions than you'd expect. While optical imaging needs clear skies and suffers from clouds, newer systems use synthetic aperture radar that can see through cloud cover, through darkness, even through light foliage. SAR satellites send out radar pulses and measure the return signals, building images from radar reflections rather than visible light. The images look different from optical photographs, rougher, more abstract. But they contain geometric information that's often more useful for intelligence analysis than pretty pictures. Umbra, a commercial SAR company, claims 15 centimeter resolution from their synthetic aperture radar satellites. That's approaching the optical resolution of classified military satellites. And commercial systems are generally behind classified military capabilities by a decade or more, which suggests that military SR satellites might achieve resolution in the single-digit centimeters, possibly better in ideal conditions. These capabilities mean that satellites can image through conditions that would ground aircraft, night operations, bad weather, dense cloud cover. None of these prevent satellite surveillance anymore. The operational implications are profound. There's effectively nowhere on Earth's surface that can't be imaged at high resolution. Desert training facilities, mountain hideouts, urban areas, remote islands, ocean surfaces, all accessible to satellite cameras operating continuously from orbit. These satellites follow predictable trajectories, so targets can anticipate when they're overhead. But with multiple satellites in orbit, coverage gaps shrink, and irregular targets, things that move or appear unpredictably, can't easily avoid satellite surveillance by timing their activities. Intelligence agencies use satellite imagery for everything: monitoring military deployments, tracking weapons programs, verifying treaty compliance, mapping infrastructure, identifying training facilities, observing political gatherings, disaster response, environmental monitoring. The applications are endless, and increasingly, artificial intelligence processes the imagery automatically. Systems like Sentient, operated by the National Reconnaissance Office, use machine learning to analyze satellite data, identifying objects, detecting changes, recognizing patterns, finding things humans would miss in the overwhelming volume of imagery collected daily. These AI systems can track vehicles across multiple images, follow ships as they move across oceans, identify aircraft at airfields, count buildings in cities, detect new construction, notice when things disappear. They can do this across vast geographic areas, analyzing more imagery in minutes than human analysts could review in months. The AI doesn't get tired, doesn't get bored, doesn't miss subtle changes. It just processes data, looking for anything interesting, anything abnormal, anything that matches patterns it's been trained to recognize. And here's what makes this particularly powerful. The satellites create historical baselines. They image the same locations repeatedly over years. The AI can compare current images to historical ones, identifying what's changed: new buildings, moved equipment, changed patterns of activity. This temporal analysis turns satellite surveillance from snapshots into continuous monitoring. Even if something is hidden when satellites pass over, its appearance or disappearance leaves traces. Shadows in different positions, disturbed vegetation, changed road patterns. The AI picks up these indicators automatically. For governments, this creates unprecedented situational awareness. They can monitor adversaries' military capabilities, track weapon shipments, observe training exercises, verify diplomatic agreements, all from orbit, without setting foot on foreign soil, without risking personnel, just satellites silently observing, recording, transmitting data back to ground stations where AI systems process it into actionable intelligence. The intelligence cycle, from collection to analysis to dissemination, happens faster than human oversight can reasonably maintain. But these capabilities aren't limited to military or intelligence applications. Satellite imagery supports civilian purposes too. Disaster response relies on satellite imagery to assess damage and coordinate relief. Agricultural monitoring uses satellite data to track crop health and predict yields. Environmental organizations monitor deforestation, illegal fishing, and wildlife habitats. Urban planners analyze development patterns. The same satellites serving military purposes also serve civilian needs. Often it's the same imagery, just analyzed for different purposes. This dual-use nature makes satellite surveillance particularly difficult to regulate. You can't ban satellite imagery for military purposes without also impacting civilian applications. And you can't limit resolution without reducing usefulness for both categories, so the capabilities just keep improving. Commercial satellite companies push for higher resolution to serve paying customers. Military agencies want the best possible intelligence. Both drivers push technology forward, making satellite surveillance continuously more capable, more pervasive, more detailed. The result is a world where privacy from above no longer exists, where any outdoor activity is potentially observable, where governments and increasingly commercial entities can see what's happening anywhere on Earth's surface at any time. The implications for civil liberties are obvious, for political dissidents, for minority populations, for anyone whose activities might be of interest to states or other powerful actors. You can hide from ground-level surveillance, you can avoid cameras, you can take precautions, but hiding from satellites that see everything continuously, with increasing resolution and AI-enhanced analysis, that's much harder. And the technology is spreading. The US has the most sophisticated reconnaissance satellites, but they're not alone. China has extensive satellite imaging capabilities. Russia maintains their reconnaissance programs. France, Israel, Italy, India, Germany, the UK, Spain all operate military imaging satellites. The club is expanding, and commercial high-resolution satellites are now accessible to anyone willing to pay. You can buy satellite imagery online, sometimes within hours of capture, with resolution good enough for most intelligence purposes. This democratization of satellite surveillance is both empowering and concerning. It empowers journalists, researchers, activists to monitor powerful actors, to verify claims, to document abuses. Human rights organizations use satellite imagery to document atrocities when ground access is impossible. But it also means that surveillance from space is available to anyone, including actors with hostile intentions, including organizations without accountability, including corporations interested in competitive intelligence. The same imagery that helps verify arms control treaties can be used for corporate espionage or stalking high-value individuals. We're entering an era where the assumption of privacy outdoors is becoming obsolete. Not because of local cameras or drones, though those contribute, but because of satellites in orbit that can see your face from space, read your license plate, identify what you're carrying, and track your movements across entire regions. And there's no place to hide, no physical location outside that's beyond reach. The surveillance is continuous, the coverage is global, the resolution is improving, and increasingly, it's all being processed by AI systems that can identify, track, and analyze individuals at scale. Chapter 5: Emotion Reading AI Systems. The human face betrays us constantly. Microexpressions, tiny muscle movements lasting less than a second, fleeting shifts in expression that reveal genuine emotional states before conscious control can smooth them over. Most people can't reliably detect these microexpressions. They're too brief, too subtle. But AI systems trained on millions of facial images are getting remarkably good at it. And governments are developing systems that don't just recognize faces, they read emotions, detect stress, identify fear, assess intent, all in real time. The technology combines multiple data streams. High-resolution cameras capture facial microexpressions. Voice analysis systems detect stress patterns in speech, pitch changes, rhythm alterations, breathlessness. Thermal cameras measure blood flow changes associated with emotional arousal, blushing, blanching, subtle temperature shifts. Breathing sensors detect respiration rate and pattern changes. All these signals feed into machine learning models trained to correlate physiological markers with emotional states. The goal isn't mind reading. Not exactly. It's emotion classification. The system doesn't know what you're thinking, but it can estimate what you're feeling. Fear, anger, stress, anxiety, deception, confidence. These emotional states produce measurable physiological changes, changes that can be detected remotely with sufficient sensor fidelity and computational analysis. The AI learns patterns. When people are afraid, their facial muscles move in characteristic ways. their voice changes, their breathing accelerates, their skin temperature shifts. This system learns these correlations from training data and applies them to new observations. The applications for security and intelligence are obvious. Imagine a border checkpoint where every traveler is automatically screened for stress and deception. Cameras capturing micro-expressions, microphones analyzing vocal patterns, thermal sensors measuring physiological arousal. AI systems processing all this data in real time, flagging individuals who show signs of fear, stress, or attempted deception. No interrogation needed, no conscious assessment by human officers, just automated emotion detection identifying people whose physiological state suggests they might be hiding something. Or airport security. Passengers moving through checkpoints while cameras track facial expressions, while voice analysis systems listen to conversations, while thermal imaging measures stress responses. The AI processes thousands of passengers per hour, looking for anomalous emotional patterns. Most people pass through unremarked, but anyone showing unusual stress, inappropriate fear, suspicious patterns of arousal gets flagged for secondary screening. The system doesn't need probable cause, it's just detecting emotions, and emotional responses aren't protected by law the way physical searches are. Intelligence agencies are particularly interested in these capabilities for interrogation and interviews. Traditional interrogation relies on human skill in reading body language, detecting deception, identifying stress responses. But humans are inconsistent. They get tired, they miss things, they bring biases. AI systems don't have those limitations. They process every signal, every micro-expression, every vocal fluctuation, every thermal pattern, and they compare what they observe to vast datasets of known emotional responses, identifying patterns that human observers would miss. The technology builds on decades of research into emotional expression. Paul Ekman's work on facial action coding systems, studies of vocal stress analysis, thermal imaging research, autonomic nervous system physiology. Machine learning brings these separate research threads together into integrated systems that can process multiple signal streams simultaneously, creating composite assessments of emotional state that are more reliable than any single indicator. But there's a fundamental problem with emotion recognition systems. Ground truth is hard to establish. When you train a facial recognition system, the labels are clear. This face belongs to this person. But when you train an emotion recognition system, labels are subjective. This expression means fear. According to who? Based on what? Cultural differences complicate everything. Expressions that signal one emotion in one culture might mean something entirely different in another. Psychological states don't map neatly onto physiological signals. Someone might show physiological sign of stress for many reasons: fear, excitement, medical conditions, caffeine, none of which indicate deception or hostile intent. Yet these systems are being deployed despite these limitations, because even imperfect emotion detection is better than nothing from a security perspective. If the system flags 10% false positives but catches most genuinely stressed or deceptive individuals, that's still useful for screening large populations. The false positives get secondary screening. The genuine threats get detected. The system doesn't need to be perfect, just better than human screeners working alone. And at sufficient scale, with enough processing power, these systems can monitor populations that would be impossible to monitor with human observers. China has been particularly aggressive in deploying emotion recognition technology. Their social credit systems reportedly incorporate emotion detection into public surveillance infrastructure, cameras in public spaces analyzing facial expressions, voice analysis systems processing conversations, physiological monitoring looking for signs of dissent or instability. The stated goal is public safety and social harmony. The effect is a population that knows they're being watched, not just for what they do, but for how they feel while doing it. Where showing the wrong emotions in public spaces can have consequences, but Western democracies are developing similar capabilities, just with different framing. Public safety, counter-terrorism, threat detection. The technology is the same. Cameras analyzing micro-expressions, AI systems detecting emotional states. The distinction is mostly in transparency and accountability. How publicly the systems are deployed, what oversight exists, what rights individuals have when they're flagged by emotion detection systems. These are policy questions, not technical ones. The surveillance implications are profound. Traditional surveillance tracks what you do, where you go, who you meet. Emotion detection adds a psychological layer. It attempts to infer what you're feeling, whether you're stressed, whether you're lying, whether you might be dangerous. This creates a form of thought crime detection. You haven't done anything wrong, but your emotional state looks suspicious. Your micro-expressions suggest deception. Your physiological signals indicate stress, so you're flagged, stopped, questioned, perhaps detained, all because an algorithm interpreted your autonomic nervous system responses as indicating potential threat. And there's no real defense against this surveillance. You can control your words, you can manage your actions, but micro-expressions are involuntary. Autonomic responses are unconscious. Breathing patterns, heart rate changes, facial muscle movements. These happen below awareness. You can't stop them without intensive training, and even then, suppression is imperfect. The AI systems are looking for deviations from baseline, patterns that stand out. If everyone shows stress walking through an airport security checkpoint, that's normal. But if you show significantly more or less stress than the distribution predicts, that's anomalous. And anomalies get flagged. This creates a tyranny of the normal. The AI learns what emotional patterns look normal for specific contexts. Airports, border crossings, public gatherings. Then it flags people whose patterns deviate. But deviance isn't criminality. Some people are naturally anxious. Some have medical conditions that affect physiological responses. Some are neurodivergent and show emotions differently. Cultural backgrounds influence emotional expression. None of this indicates threat. But the AI can't reliably distinguish harmless deviance from genuinely concerning patterns, so it flags everyone who doesn't fit the statistical norm. The result is surveillance systems that enforce conformity, not through explicit rules, but through algorithmic detection of deviance from emotional norms. Show too much stress, flagged. Show too little, also flagged. The only safe emotional state is the one that AI considers statistically normal for your demographic in that context. This isn't just privacy invasion. It's a form of behavioral control. People learn what emotional expressions are safe. They modulate their affect to avoid triggering algorithmic suspicion. The surveillance shapes behavior even for people who are doing nothing wrong. Chapter 6. Synthetic DNA. Editing tools. The ability to edit DNA with precision has advanced faster than public understanding. CRISPR, the gene editing technology that won the Nobel Prize, is remarkable. But it's also somewhat crude compared to what's being developed in classified bioengineering facilities. Government research programs have moved beyond simple gene editing into synthetic biology. The ability to design genetic sequences from scratch, to modify organisms with near-zero error rates, to create biological systems that don't exist in nature. These capabilities are concentrated in defense research programs, DARPA's Biological Technologies Office, military medical research institutes, classified facilities that don't publish their findings in peer-reviewed journals. The work is defended as necessary for defensive purposes, understanding biological threats, developing medical countermeasures, protecting military personnel from engineered pathogens, but the same tools that defend against biological weapons can create them. The line between defensive and offensive capabilities is thin to non-existent in synthetic biology. We know from occasional public disclosures and budget documents that these programs exist. We know they're investing in precise DNA editing platforms, in synthetic gene circuits, in designed organisms with novel properties. What we don't know is the current state of the art. How precisely can they edit genomes? What error rates have they achieved? What capabilities have they successfully demonstrated? These details remain classified. But based on the trajectory of published research and the resources being invested, it's reasonable to infer that classified capabilities are significantly ahead of what's publicly available. The implications for human modification are particularly sensitive. If you can edit DNA with near-perfect accuracy, you can modify human genetic code, fix genetic diseases, enhance physical capabilities, alter cognitive function. The ethical questions are enormous. Who decides what modifications are acceptable? What oversight exists for classified human experimentation? What safeguards prevent misuse? These questions don't have comfortable answers, and classified research programs don't have to answer them publicly. Military interest in human enhancement is well documented. Programs aimed at reducing sleep requirements, increasing stress resistance, enhancing cognitive performance, improving physical endurance. These programs historically used pharmaceuticals, training regimens, and equipment modifications. But genetic engineering offers more permanent alterations, changes that persist without ongoing intervention, changes that might be heritable, passing to offspring. The appeal from a military perspective is obvious, the dangers equally so. There's also interest in biological sensing capabilities. Can humans be engineered to detect threats that normally require equipment? To see infrared radiation, to hear ultrasound, to sense magnetic fields? Some animals have these capabilities naturally. In principle, the relevant genes could be identified and transferred. Whether classified programs have attempted this is unknown, but the scientific feasibility suggests it's at least being explored. More concerning are potential biological weapons applications, engineered pathogens, organisms designed to be highly contagious but lethal only to specific genetic populations, diseases that are difficult to detect or diagnose, infections that resist all known treatments, biological agents that degrade rapidly after deployment, leaving no trace. These capabilities are theoretically possible with advanced synthetic biology. Whether they've been developed is hopefully unknown, but the concern is sufficient that the Biological Weapons Convention specifically prohibits development of offensive biological weapons. The challenge is verification. How do you verify that classified biological research programs aren't developing prohibited capabilities? Especially when defensive research looks identical to offensive research until deployed. The defensive justification is always available. We're studying these pathogens to develop countermeasures. We're understanding these mechanisms to protect against them. This justification is often genuine, but it also provides cover for developing offensive capabilities under the guise of defense. And in the classified world, where oversight is limited and transparency non-existent, distinguishing defensive from offensive work is nearly impossible for outside observers. Synthetic DNA editing also enables targeted biological surveillance. Genetic sequences that activate only in the presence of specific environmental conditions, or in specific individuals with particular genetic markers. You could theoretically create a biomarker that expresses only when it detects target DNA sequences, a surveillance system implemented in living organisms. This sounds like science fiction, but the underlying technology exists. Engineered organisms can sense and respond to molecular signatures. Implementing this in a surveillance context requires putting the pieces together in ways that may or may not have been done already. The concerning pattern across all these capabilities is the lack of transparency. Bioethics oversight for classified programs is minimal. Standard ethical review processes don't apply when research is compartmented. The usual safeguards, informed consent, independent review, public accountability, these don't function in the classified world. Researchers work on problems defined by military requirements, under security restrictions that prevent public disclosure, with oversight that happens behind closed doors. This creates an environment where capabilities can advance rapidly without public awareness or debate about their implications. And once capabilities are developed, they tend to spread. Classification can slow dissemination, but not prevent it indefinitely. Researchers move between classified and unclassified work. Techniques developed in secret eventually appear in published research, often years or decades later. The lead time gives those with classified access significant advantages, but it doesn't create a permanent monopoly, which means that concerning capabilities developed in classified programs will eventually become available more broadly. The question is just how much of a head start classified programs have and what they've done with it. Chapter 7. Cyber Weapons That Leave No Trace. In 2010, security researchers discovered something unprecedented. A piece of malware so sophisticated, so carefully crafted, that it could only have been created by a nation-state. Stuxnet. It infected Iranian nuclear facilities and physically destroyed centrifuges by subtly altering their rotation speeds while simultaneously hiding the malfunction from monitoring systems. It was cyber warfare manifested in code, and it revealed a truth that many suspected but few could prove. Governments possess cyber weapons far more advanced than anything in the public security literature. Stuxnet wasn't designed to be discovered. It spread only to specific targets. It activated only when it detected particular industrial control systems. It destroyed evidence of its operation. The only reason we know about it is that it escaped its intended target and was accidentally discovered by researchers. This suggests that Stuxnet, sophisticated as it was, might be crude compared to malware that hasn't been accidentally discovered. Weapons that remain hidden, attacks that leave no trace, compromises that persist undetected for years or decades. Modern government cyber weapons are built on principles of attribution avoidance. They use techniques that make tracking their origin nearly impossible. They operate through chains of compromised systems, bouncing through multiple countries, making source identification a technical and legal nightmare. They employ anti-forensics measures that destroy evidence of their presence. They can modify logs, erase traces, and restore systems to hide the fact that they were ever compromised. The goal is not just to succeed in the attack, but to make investigation impossible. These weapons target critical infrastructure, power grids, water systems, financial networks, communications infrastructure, healthcare systems. The goal might be espionage, quietly collecting information without alerting defenders. or it might be disruption, maintaining dormant access until a conflict begins, then activating to disable critical systems. Or it might be destruction, permanently damaging systems in ways that are expensive and time-consuming to repair. The flexibility of cyber weapons makes them attractive for intelligence operations, covert action, and preparation for future conflicts. The NSA's Ant catalogue, leaked by Edward Snowden, revealed some of these capabilities: hardware implants that intercept communications, firmware modifications that persist across system reinstalls, software exploits that provide remote access to supposedly secure systems. These were just the tools that made it into a catalogue several years old by the time it was leaked. The current state of the art is presumably far more advanced. Techniques that were cutting edge in 2013 are now either publicly known or obsolete. What capabilities exist today in classified programs? We can only infer from trends and occasional leaks. Zero-day exploits are crucial to these capabilities. These are vulnerabilities in software that the vendor doesn't know about, security flaws that haven't been patched because they haven't been discovered by legitimate researchers. Intelligence agencies invest enormous resources in finding zero days, buying them from researchers, discovering them through their own analysis, hoarding them for operational use rather than disclosing them to vendors. Each zero day is a key that unlocks access to systems using the vulnerable software. And because the vulnerability is unknown, defenses don't exist. The attack succeeds with near certainty until the zero day is discovered and patched. But using zero days creates a dilemma. Once you use an exploit operationally, you risk it being discovered. If defenders find evidence of the attack and reverse engineer the technique, the zero day becomes public, it gets patched, your key stops working. This creates pressure to use zero days sparingly, only on high-value targets where the intelligence gain justifies risking exposure of the capability. It also creates incentive to develop zero days that are hard to detect even when used. Attacks that leave minimal forensic traces, techniques that look like other things, hardware failures, user errors, unrelated software bugs. Advanced Persistent Threats, or APTs, represent the most sophisticated level of cyber operations. These are long-term compromises where attackers maintain access to target networks for months or years. They move laterally through systems. They establish multiple access points so that if one is discovered, others remain. They blend their activities with normal network traffic to avoid detection. They extract data slowly in ways that don't trigger alerts. The goal is persistence and stealth. To remain in the network long enough to access whatever information appears, to maintain surveillance capability indefinitely. Attribution in cyberspace is fundamentally difficult. Unlike physical attacks, which happen at specific locations and involve observable evidence, cyber attacks can come from anywhere. Attackers route through multiple countries. They use infrastructure in neutral nations. They employ techniques that mimic other adversaries. They plant false flags, indicators that point toward the wrong culprits. Even when forensic analysis identifies the tools and techniques used, definitively attributing the attack to a specific nation-state requires intelligence sources beyond what forensics provides. Technical evidence shows what was done. Intelligence sources reveal who did it, and those sources are often classified, making public attribution difficult or impossible. This attribution problem creates strategic ambiguity. States can conduct cyber operations with plausible deniability. They can interfere, disrupt, or steal information while avoiding direct consequences. If attribution is uncertain, retaliation is difficult to justify. This makes cyberspace an attractive domain for activities that states want to conduct but can't acknowledge. The operations happen. The victims may know they were attacked. But proving who attacked them with evidence that holds up internationally, that's another matter entirely. There's also the question of what we don't know. Successful cyber operations leave no trace. Successful intelligence collection happens without the target realizing anything was taken. How many networks are currently compromised by sophisticated state actors using techniques that defenders don't yet know to look for? How much information is being exfiltrated using methods that bypass current detection capabilities? These questions are fundamentally unanswerable. We only know about cyber operations when they're discovered. Everything that remains undiscovered remains unknown. The concerning possibility is that major systems, critical infrastructure, classified networks, financial systems might already be compromised, that attackers have maintained access for years, quietly collecting information, slowly mapping networks, patiently preparing for potential future conflicts. And because the capabilities are so advanced, because the techniques are so sophisticated, detection might not occur until activation, until the dormant access is used for something that leaves traces, by which point it may be too late to respond effectively. Chapter 8: Brain-Computer Monitoring Devices. The human brain generates electrical signals constantly, neurons firing, neural networks activating. Patterns of activity that correspond to thoughts, attention, emotions, and intentions. For decades, these signals could only be measured crudely, using electrodes placed on the scalp or invasively implanted. But technology has advanced. Modern brain-computer interfaces can read neural activity with increasing precision from outside the skull. And while most public development focuses on medical applications, helping paralyzed patients communicate, enabling prosthetic control, classified programs have other interests. Intelligence agencies have explored neural monitoring for interrogation purposes. Can brain activity reveal deception? Can attention patterns indicate concealed knowledge? Can emotional responses betray hidden information? Traditional polygraphs measure peripheral physiological signals, heart rate, breathing, galvanic skin response. Brain monitoring goes directly to the source. It measures neural activity associated with recognition, emotional response, attention allocation. In theory, this should provide more reliable deception detection. In practice, the technology is still developing, but that doesn't stop it from being explored in classified settings. The techniques involve functional near-infrared spectroscopy, or portable EEG systems. These measure brain activity through the skull non-invasively. While the signal quality isn't as good as implanted electrodes, modern signal processing can extract useful information. Areas of the brain that activate when someone recognizes a face. Regions involved in decision-making and cognitive conflict. Networks associated with emotional processing and stress response. By monitoring these signals, researchers attempt to infer cognitive and emotional states that the subject might want to conceal. Research in this area is publicly acknowledged for certain applications. Brain-computer interfaces for assistive technology. Neurofeedback for treating attention deficits. Cognitive load monitoring for optimizing training. But the same technology that helps patients can also monitor subjects without their meaningful consent. A headset presented as measuring attention or cognitive performance might also be collecting data on emotional state, recognition responses, or deception indicators. The subject might not know what's actually being measured or how the data is being analyzed. Military interest focuses on several areas. Can neural monitoring enhance security screening? If travelers at airports wore headsets, could brain activity reveal concealed knowledge of threats? Can soldiers' cognitive states be monitored in real time to optimize performance? If commanders knew when troops were cognitively fatigued or emotionally stressed, could they make better deployment decisions? Can enemy combatants be interrogated using neural monitoring to verify information or detect deception? These questions drive classified research into brain monitoring technologies. The fundamental challenge is that brain activity is complex and variable. Neural signals don't map simply onto thoughts or intentions. The same brain area might activate in different contexts for different reasons. Pattern recognition algorithms can find correlations. This brain pattern tends to occur when people are lying. But correlation isn't causation. The pattern might reflect cognitive effort, not deception. It might vary with personality, culture, training. Individual differences might be larger than the signals being measured. Creating reliable detection systems requires enormous training data, and even then, error rates might be unacceptably high for operational use. But unacceptably high is context dependent. For medical diagnosis, you want very low error rates. For security screening of large populations, moderate error rates might be acceptable if they catch enough genuine threats, while false positives get secondary screening. The threshold for acceptable performance is lower for surveillance applications than for medical ones. This creates space for deploying brain monitoring technologies that wouldn't pass medical regulatory scrutiny, but might still provide value for intelligence or security purposes. There's also interest in neural monitoring for insider threat detection. Can employees' brain activity be monitored to detect potential security risks? If someone is planning to leak information or sabotage systems, does their neural activity show predictive signs? Stress, cognitive conflict, emotional responses to security-related stimuli? The idea is to identify risks before they manifest in actions, to detect the intention before the execution. This is thought crime territory, identifying people not for what they've done, but for what their brain activity suggests they might be thinking about doing. The privacy implications are profound. Traditional surveillance monitors behavior. Neural monitoring attempts to access mental states. It's not recording what you say or do, it's measuring brain activity associated with what you think and feel. Even if the technology can't reliably read specific thoughts, which it probably can't, it can detect patterns of neural activity associated with cognitive and emotional states. This creates a form of mental surveillance. Your brain activity becomes data to be collected, analysed and acted upon. And unlike behavioural surveillance, which you can potentially avoid through careful conduct, neural monitoring reveals things you can't control. You can control what you say. You can manage your facial expressions with effort. But you can't consciously control the neural activity that occurs before conscious thought. The brain processes information and generates responses before you're aware of them. These unconscious processes might be detectable through neural monitoring even when conscious behavior appears normal. Chapter 9: Invisibility Materials. The ability to make objects invisible sounds like fantasy, but physics actually permits it under certain conditions. Light is electromagnetic radiation. It travels in waves, and waves can be manipulated, bent, redirected, made to flow around objects as if those objects weren't there. This is the principle behind metamaterials designed for optical camouflage. Materials with engineered electromagnetic properties that interact with light in ways that natural materials don't. The simplest version is transparency. Windows are invisible because they let light pass through. But transparency doesn't help with solid objects that can't be made transparent. The advanced approach is to bend light around an object. If light that would normally hit the object and reflect back to an observer instead flows around it, continuing on its original path, the object becomes effectively invisible. The light reaching the observer is the same as if the object weren't there. This isn't science fiction. It's engineered materials with specific optical properties. And while perfect invisibility across all wavelengths and viewing angles remains elusive, partial invisibility under specific conditions has been demonstrated. Military interest is obvious. Invisible vehicles, camouflaged installations, stealth technology that works not by absorbing radar, but by making objects transparent to it. The research is heavily classified, but occasional glimpses appear. Academic papers on metamaterials, patents on optical camouflage systems, defense budgets with line items for advanced materials research. Putting these pieces together suggests that significant work is happening on the invisibility technology, even if operational deployments haven't been publicly acknowledged. The challenges are substantial. Creating materials that bend light correctly requires structures smaller than the wavelength of light. Nanoscale engineering, precise manufacturing. The materials need to work across a range of frequencies, or else they're only invisible to specific colors. They need to handle different viewing angles without breaking the illusion. They need to be physically robust enough for practical use, and ideally they should work in different environments, not just laboratory conditions. Current public research demonstrates proof-of-concept systems that can conceal small objects under specific conditions. Lab demonstrations, limited viewing angles, single wavelengths. These are far from operational invisibility cloaks, but they prove that the physics works. That engineered materials can achieve optical camouflage. The question is just how far classified programs have pushed the technology beyond what's publicly known. How large an object can be concealed. How wide a range of wavelengths can be handled. How well does it work outside laboratory settings? Military applications might not require perfect invisibility. Even partial reduction in visibility could be tactically valuable. A vehicle that's harder to spot. A soldier whose outline is less distinct. An installation that blends into its surroundings better than conventional camouflage. These partial invisibilities might be achievable with current technology, even if full invisibility across all conditions remains beyond reach. And partial solutions might be classified because they provide operational advantages worth protecting. There's also the question of what wavelengths matter most. Visible light invisibility is challenging but might not be the primary military interest. Infrared invisibility, radar transparency, these might be more operationally relevant for stealth applications, and the physics might be more tractable. Longer wavelengths are easier to manipulate with metamaterials. A material that's transparent to radar but visible to the eye might be more achievable than full optical invisibility, and for military purposes, might be more useful. Chapter 10: Predictive Surveillance, AI. The culmination of all these technologies is predictive surveillance. Systems that don't just observe what you're doing but attempt to predict what you'll do next. By analyzing movement patterns, communication networks, location histories, transaction records, social media behavior, and hundreds of other data streams, AI systems build models of individual behavior. These models identify patterns, normal routines, typical behaviors, expected activities, and crucially, deviations from these patterns. The goal is to identify people who might commit crimes or security violations before they act. Predictive policing, pre-crime detection. The terminology varies, but the concept is consistent. Use data analysis and machine learning to assess risk, to identify individuals whose behavior patterns suggest elevated probability of future criminal activity. Then intervene. Increase surveillance, preventive detention, restrictions on movement or activity, all justified by algorithmic predictions about future behavior. China's social credit system represents one implementation, monitoring citizens through pervasive surveillance, scoring behavior according to government-defined criteria, using those scores to restrict access to services, employment, travel. The scores incorporate both confirmed behavior and predicted risk. Someone who associates with known dissidents might receive a lower score even without engaging in dissident activity themselves. The prediction that they might become a dissident is enough to justify restrictions. Western democracies don't have social credit systems, not formally. But predictive surveillance exists in different forms. No-fly lists that include people who haven't committed crimes but are deemed security risks. Watch lists based on predicted threat levels rather than concrete evidence. Algorithms that flag individuals for enhanced screening based on behavior patterns and associations. The distinction between Chinese social credit and Western predictive surveillance is mostly in scope and transparency. The underlying technology is similar. AI analyzing data to predict future behavior and using those predictions to justify differential treatment. The accuracy of these predictions is questionable. Human behavior is complex, influenced by countless factors, emergent from neural processes we don't fully understand. Reducing this complexity to algorithmic predictions inevitably oversimplifies. The AI finds correlations in historical data. People with these characteristics committed crimes at this rate. Therefore, new people with similar characteristics have similar risk probabilities. But correlation isn't causation. And historical patterns don't guarantee future behavior. Yet the systems are deployed anyway, because even imperfect predictions have value for resource allocation. Police departments can concentrate patrols in areas the algorithm identifies as high risk. Intelligence agencies can prioritize surveillance of individuals the system flags. Airports can subject certain travelers to additional screening. The predictions don't need to be perfect, just better than random, better than human intuition alone. And machine learning systems trained on vast datasets often do achieve better than chance prediction. But better than chance isn't accurate, and the consequences of false positives, innocent people flagged as risks, can be severe. The fundamental problem is that predictive systems encode biases present in their training data. If historical policing focused disproportionately on certain neighborhoods, those neighborhoods will appear higher crime in the data. The algorithm learns that these areas are risky. It recommends more policing there, which generates more arrests in those areas, which feeds back into the training data, reinforcing the initial bias. The system creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. Predicted high crime areas receive more police attention. More attention generates more arrests. More arrests appear to validate the original prediction, but the arrests might reflect enforcement patterns rather than underlying crime rates. Conclusion: living in the surveillance state. So here we are, at the end of our journey through the classified world, through technologies that governments possess right now, technologies that reshape what surveillance means, what privacy means, what freedom means, in a world where everything can be seen, tracked, analyzed, and predicted. Long-range thermal facial recognition that identifies you from 500 meters away in complete darkness, autonomous drones that can hunt and kill without human oversight, quantum computers being built specifically to crack every encrypted message ever sent, satellites that can zoom in from orbit and capture images smaller than your fingertip, AI systems that attempt to read your emotions from micro-expressions and physiological signals, synthetic biology capable of editing DNA with precision that enables human modification, cyber weapons that can disable critical infrastructure while leaving no trace, brain-computer interfaces that monitor neural activity for signs of concealed knowledge, metamaterials that bend light to create invisibility, and predictive AI that attempts to identify security risks before any crime is committed. These aren't future possibilities, they exist now, operational, deployed, active. Most people don't know about them because they're classified, because they operate in secret, because governments prefer that citizens don't understand the full extent of surveillance capabilities that already exist. Because once you know what's possible, once you understand what's already happening, the comfortable illusion of privacy becomes harder to maintain. The question we're left with is what we do with this knowledge. Do we accept total surveillance as the inevitable price of security? Do we demand transparency and accountability even for classified programs? Do we push for legal frameworks that protect civil liberties even as technology makes surveillance easier? These are not easy questions, and they don't have comfortable answers. What's clear is that the trajectory is toward more surveillance, not less. Each technology builds on previous ones. Each capability enables new applications. The infrastructure of total surveillance is being constructed piece by piece, not through any single decision or program, but through countless incremental steps, each one justified by security needs, each one expanding what's possible, each one normalizing capabilities that would have seemed dystopian a generation ago. And perhaps most concerning, most of this surveillance infrastructure is being built in secret, without public debate, without democratic oversight, without meaningful accountability. Classified programs develop capabilities, black budgets fund their deployment, security classifications prevent public scrutiny. By the time capabilities become public knowledge, they've often been operational for years or decades. The debate happens retroactively, after the technology is already entrenched, after the infrastructure is already built. This is why disclosure matters, why whistleblowers matter, why investigative journalism matters, why citizen awareness matters. Because in a democracy, the public should have some say in what surveillance capabilities their government possesses, what uses are acceptable, what limits should exist. These are fundamentally political questions, not just technical ones, but they can't be debated if they remain secret. They can't be democratically decided if they're classified. So what do? First, we understand what exists. We educate ourselves about surveillance technologies and their capabilities. We stop assuming that privacy exists just because we can't see the surveillance. We recognize that much of what we do is potentially visible to states and other powerful actors with access to these systems. Second, we demand transparency. We push for declassification of surveillance programs that impact civil liberties. We support oversight mechanisms that can examine classified capabilities. We elect representatives who take privacy seriously and hold intelligence agencies accountable. We use legal and political processes to establish limits on what surveillance is acceptable. Third, we protect ourselves to the extent possible. We use strong encryption. We minimize data generation. We support technologies that preserve privacy. We recognize that perfect protection is impossible against state-level adversaries, but that doesn't mean all protection is pointless. every barrier raised, every encryption layer added, every privacy-preserving technology deployed makes surveillance slightly harder, slightly more expensive, slightly less comprehensive. And fourth, we maintain perspective. These technologies are powerful, they're concerning, but they don't represent absolute control. Humans still make decisions, institutions still matter, political processes still function. Technology enables surveillance, but it doesn't determine how that surveillance is used or what protections exist. Those remain questions for democratic society to answer collectively. The surveillance infrastructure described tonight exists. That's not speculation. It's documented through leaks, budget disclosures, academic research, and occasional official acknowledgements. What remains uncertain is the full scope, how widely these technologies are deployed, what limitations exist on their use, what oversight actually happens in practice. These details remain largely classified, but we can infer general patterns. Surveillance capabilities expand continuously. Each generation of technology can do more than the previous one. Classification delays public knowledge but doesn't prevent development. What seems impossible today becomes operational tomorrow, and what seems limited to military or intelligence use eventually spreads to law enforcement and even commercial applications. This is the world we live in now, a world where anonymity in public space is increasingly obsolete, where encrypted communications might be retroactively decrypted, where satellites can observe anything happening outdoors, where AI systems attempt to predict behavior and detect concealed emotions, where the infrastructure of total surveillance is operational, expanding, and largely hidden from public view. Understanding this doesn't require paranoia, it requires realism. The technologies exist, they're being used, and they're not going away. How they're used, what limits exist, what protections are enforced, these remain open questions. Questions that depend on political decisions, legal frameworks, and social choices, not on technology alone. So as you drift off to sleep tonight, here on the Sleepy Computer Scientist channel, remember this. The surveillance infrastructure is real. The capabilities are extensive, but the future isn't written yet. How these technologies shape society depends on choices we make collectively, about what surveillance we accept, what privacy we demand, what accountability we require from those who wield these powerful tools. Knowledge is power, and now you know what exists. You know what's possible. You know that the comfortable assumption of privacy in a digital age is often an illusion. But you also know that awareness is the first step toward action, that democratic societies can impose limits, that technology doesn't determine destiny, that the world we inhabit tomorrow depends on choices we make today. Rest well, dream deeply, and when you wake, you'll carry this knowledge with you. The knowledge that surveillance technologies far beyond most people's imagination are operational right now. The knowledge that governments possess capabilities they'd prefer remained secret. And the knowledge that understanding these capabilities is the first step toward ensuring they're used responsibly, with oversight, and with respect for the civil liberties that democracy requires. Good night, and thank you for joining me on the Sleepy Computer Scientist for this exploration of technologies governments don't want you to know about.